Get ready for some game recommendations from me, ZeteskRants. These are my favorite games of all time, as of July 2024. Some of these are older games. Let me know in the comments if you've played them all. Best first-person shooter game, Borderlands 2. I'm not usually a fan of driving or shooting in games, but Borderlands and Borderlands 2 made it fun. In the first game, I liked being able to shoot the zombies and skags in the head for an instant kill most of the time. In the second game, I liked the variety of places to see and voice acting to listen to. If this channel grows big enough, I might hire a voice actor instead of using text-to-speech, but for now this channel isn't even monetized. I don't include the pre-sequel or Borderlands 3 since those didn't feel as good to play. Too slow, too much bullet sponge, maps too large and empty, and I just really didn't like the floaty jumping in the low-gravity areas. Best leveling mechanics, Elder Scrolls V, Skyrim. This was my biggest exposure to the idea that things your character does, or things that happen to them, can actually impact your character in-game. Sure, I had seen games where different magic or weapon skills could level up separately, but that almost never impacted the overall character level, and I don't think any games I played before this had different armor stats increasing when you get hit. I also liked being able to level up from just crafting, and having the different skill trees to work towards was all really fun. Sure, I may have tied an elastic around the thumbstick to crouch walk into a corner overnight a few times to abuse the level up system, but that was after I was far enough into the game that I was just having fun and not concerned about the challenge anymore. Best hack and slash game, Dynasty Warriors 7. I played through Samurai Warriors 4, Dynasty Warriors 6, 7 and 8 all back to back, and Dynasty Warriors 7 is my favorite. I've heard about the controversy of later games, and it is sad that they'll probably never make another as good as their older ones, but that's life sometimes. I really enjoyed hacking and slashing through hundreds of enemies, and the achievement for getting a 1000 hit combo was very satisfying. The few enemy leaders mixed in amongst the crowds added a bit of spice to break up the monotony in just the right way. As a bonus, I got to learn a bit about Chinese mythology and literature, since the game is based off the War of Three Kingdoms book. I've heard some people say it is historical, and other people say it was intended as fiction, so I'm erring on the side of literature. Best controller feel, Luigi's Mansion. I first played this game on GameCube, and the mechanics of vacuuming ghosts using the thumbsticks and trigger buttons felt really satisfying. Whenever I missed, it felt like I should have missed. Vacuuming up all the money under every cloth and table added a reason to slow down and check every corner, which has stayed with me through many games since, and often leads to extra power-ups and Easter eggs. Exploring the mansion and checking the map to figure out how to get to those locked rooms made game progression very organic. I never hit a skill ceiling. Even if I died on a few of the bosses, it never felt unwinnable like modern games. I also really like the art style of the game, not realistic, not blocky, always easy to determine what you're looking at. I was really disappointed by Luigi's Mansion 2 being segregated time trials, as opposed to the open slow exploration of the first game. People must have agreed with me, since Luigi's Mansion 3 returned to more of the original gameplay style. It also added multiplayer for the campaign, which was fun. Both 1 and 3 are great games, but the controller feel of the first game just can't be matched. Best sandbox, Minecraft. Like many people, I play through Minecraft every few years, and put it down when I'm done with it for a while. In the old versions of it, I really liked exploring caves, finding all the dead ends, and sealing them up once I knew I had gotten all the good stuff out of them. Sometime in the last 10 years they added an update which made some caves go on seemingly infinitely, which I didn't like at first, but I learned to deal with it. The Ender Dragon was a nice addition to the game, although I don't usually focus on combat. I can't say much for any of the bosses added after that though, since I don't usually get to things like the Warden or Netherite. There are also a bunch of awesome mods which add new materials, automation, magic, portals to different places, unique boss monsters and loot. I don't want to make too many specific recommendations because mods are often only compatible with certain versions of the main game, but if you enjoy the main game and wish there was more to play with in the sandbox, you'll probably be able to find something to your liking. A few of my favorites are vein mining, timber, feed the beast, and backpacks. Best Squad Control, Dungeon Siege 2. The original Dungeon Siege allowed you to play as an adventuring party of up to 8 members, each with their own equipment, inventory, and stats, but every character was capable of leveling up in any stat to be able to use any ability. Characters would also stand wherever you left them, so it is theoretically possible to go back and forth carrying everyone to the end of the game. There were a few voice lines that changed depending on which characters you had with you, but no major impact to the plot. Dungeon Siege 2, in contrast, could only go up to 4 characters in your squad, and each one of them had a set specialization. The reason why I'm going with 2 as my favorite instead of 1 is the squad control. In 1, characters could often get stuck on terrain and left behind. In Dungeon Siege 2, the pathing was excellent, and characters would rearrange themselves if they were too close to a corner or edge. The story was also more heavily impacted by which characters were in your squad, including many side quests. Also, the graphics of the first game are really dated now, and I can see it being difficult for immersion. I do not recommend Dungeon Siege 3 to anyone. It limited the squad to 2 characters with entirely predefined abilities, removed so much of the customization and leveling progression, changed the combat mechanics, and severely limited the total number of characters in the game. In fact, I'm not sure if there were any optional characters. I only remember having 3 or 4 total, and being required to swap in and out at specific locations to progress the main story. Best Relaxing Game, Planet Crafter. This one was in early access for a while before the full release, and I played it in both states. In the early game, you can't venture too far before you run out of oxygen. Later on, food and water become your main time limiters. There are many different progress tracks, allowing you to pick and choose what you want to do. Walking around, collecting materials on the surface, building up your base however you want to organize it, and occasionally finding some story notes makes this a very calming and relaxing game. You could try to rush and progress to the next thing, but you don't have to. All the progress tracks are based on things you set up to passively increase them over time, so even if you don't work to speed them up, and instead spend your time exploring, you'll eventually unlock new things in each track. The exception is the trading station, which is manual progression instead of automatic, but that is completely optional. There are multiple endings, but that's not important to my recommendation. The best part of the game is the gameplay. This could easily be another one that I revisit every few years, but time will tell. Best Collectathon, Pikmin 4. I've been a fan of the Pikmin franchise for a long time. When Pikmin 1 first released, I tried it, but the time limit was a bit too harsh for me at that age. Pikmin 2 was when I really hit my stride and 100%ed the game. Collecting treasures and growing Pikmin is the primary gameplay. Unlocking the different types of Pikmin throughout the game, and unlocking different regional maps are also key milestones in each game. Pikmin 3 I played at a friend's house because I didn't have the console to play it on. It was much shorter than I remember the first 2 games being. I finished it in less than 20 hours if I recall correctly. When it was re-released on the Switch, with added co-op mode, I got a copy and played through to beat it on every difficulty. I even challenged myself to beat it without losing a single Pikmin on the hardest difficulty, which had me restarting a few days after some ambush attacks, but I got the hang of it eventually. Pikmin 4, the most recent game in the series at the time of writing, is much longer than Pikmin 3, and more difficult, ramping things up back to about the difficulty of Pikmin 2. Pikmin 4 also adds way more side characters than any previous game, and side quests which never existed before. It also adds a dog-like character that can fight and carry things like Pikmin, but way more powerful. Choosing to upgrade that guy makes many of the seemingly impossible challenges in the game much more reasonable. Night missions were also added, but they didn't live up to my expectations. Even so, the places to explore and the things to collect make Pikmin 4 my favorite collectathon game. Best Story, Warcraft 3, The Frozen Throne. I haven't played the reforged version yet, but I've heard they didn't change the story as much as they were hoping to. The original version, back when games came on CDs, is what I remember. This game did an excellent job switching perspectives throughout the story as the player uses different factions. The story of Arthas Menethil is very compelling to me. He did everything it took to save his people, even if it meant killing them and stranding himself in a far-off place to put an end to the threat against his kingdom. His story didn't end there either. He took up a cursed weapon to fight against the evil threatening to wipe out his people, and he succumbed to its power, manipulated into obeying its will to eventually return home and slaughter his father and his kingdom personally, then merge with its master and command the undead Scourge army. That chronicle alone would be enough to make a great game, but Warcraft 3 is much more than that. It also tells the story of Thrall, an orc who rose to take leadership of the Horde, dampening their bloodlust and trying to find a new home for his recently freed people. The game also told the story of Illidan Stormrage, imprisoned for 10,000 years, unable to die, ultimately freed by his brother's wife to be used as a weapon in a war that he tried to warn them was coming before they imprisoned him for the crime of preparing for it. His resourcefulness in finding others to call to his cause was a joy to behold. He sacrificed everything to fight against the demonic invaders and the undead, and his people reviled him for his every action. Sylvanas Windrunner, an elf slaughtered by Arthas during his undead siege of her homeland, brought back against her will as a banshee and forced to kill, her story too is in this game. When the grip of the Lich King weakened on her mind, she rebelled and hunted Arthas, freeing and commanding other undead and enslaving the living on her way, even partnering with demons to accomplish her vengeance. There are also small stories in Easter eggs, such as Little Timmy, whom Arthas saved from gnolls near the beginning of the game, and is later turned into an undead ghoul, and eventually appears hidden in a forest in the undead lands. Sasquatches and Pandaren and exploding sheep are some other fun Easter eggs in the game. There is also a story of Rexer, a lone wanderer in the wasteland, lost on a planet that is not his own, preferring the company of beasts above people. He gets roped into a conflict between orcs and humans, and ultimately makes friends along the way. Best Combat Mechanics, Legend of Dragoon. Modern audiences may be put off by the blocky graphics of the original PlayStation, but if you can get to the combat in this game, you'll see why I like it so much. At first glance, it might seem like the same turn-based JRPG combat in many games, with items, magic, and attack, but once you attack it does something unique, something I've never seen any other game do. Each character has a set list of attacks that they can learn. The weapons and armor upgrade are just stat boosts and don't impact this. Each attack has a certain base strength as well as an attack pattern for you to memorize. Pattern might be the wrong word. When you use an attack, an animation plays and a blue square will appear near the middle of the screen, with a second blue square spinning in from beyond the borders of the screen, shrinking as it comes. If you press the button on the controller when the two squares overlap perfectly, you get a damage bonus and the attack animation continues. Each attack has its own animation. Early in the game, most attacks have just one button press to time. Later on, the more powerful animations have a rhythm of 7 or 8 button presses, some so fast you have to memorize the timing instead of looking at the screen. Every time you successfully complete a combo, it is tracked, and when you hit certain thresholds, that makes the attack's base power increase. The overlap of the two squares is highlighted different colors depending on your timing, so you can always tell if you were way too early, just a little too early, just a little too late, or way too late. If you miss it by a lot, the attack animation stops after that hit. If you miss it by just a little, it can trigger a counterattack from the enemy. Both your regular blue squares turn orange and the timing for the next button press is unique to the counter. If you counter successfully, you resume your combo, otherwise you take some damage and the combo ends. In my opinion, this system of rhythm and timing is far superior to button mashing or quick time events. There is another type of combat in the game. If you fill up a character's spirit bar, they can activate Dragoon mode, putting on a Dragon Sailor Moon type costume and using a completely different attack mechanic, which I'm not a fan of. It is a small circle, and instead of timing when two squares overlap, you are timing when a peg rotates around the circle, with each rotation being faster than the one before it. Plus, the Dragoon attacks always show the full animation. The only difference is how long they stand there doing the glowing power-up like Dragon Ball Z before the actual animation plays. Whenever I use the Dragoon power in the game, I always cast magic instead of doing that physical attack because I could never get the timing right. I've spent so many hours running around fields to trigger random enemy encounters just so I could max out all my combos. You can probably beat the game without using half of them, but I enjoyed this combat mechanic so much I wanted to prolong the game as much as possible. Now for some honorable mentions. Dead Island has great voice acting, good crafting mechanics, and is a really fun zombie game. Dawn of War Soulstorm and Dawn of War Dark Crusade are similar to Warcraft 3 with slightly different gameplay, but still being able to choose any of the factions to play as. Instead of a single cohesive narrative told through multiple viewpoints, it has multiple endings depending on which faction conquered the planet or galaxy. You might need Dawn of War and Dawn of War Winter Assault to access all the factions. This was released at a weird point in gaming history where some expansions functioned as standalone games and others didn't. Star Wars Battlefront 2, Classic 2005, has nice capture the flag functionality, decent first-person shooter gameplay, a variety of maps that are battled on during the campaign mode, and memorable voice lines that are repeated throughout the game. XCOM: Enemy Unknown is a good turn-based game where you must position your troops, explore the map to reveal the enemy locations, and use the terrain to increase your odds of hitting the enemy. It does suffer from RNG random number generator mechanics during combat, but uses that to try to make the player feel okay about losing troops. Each of the troops has a unique name and visuals, which I think are procedurally generated, and you can always get more, but it does hurt to lose a high-level one and have to retrain a new one to replace them. This is a remake of an older game, and I played the original, but this one is much more polished. The sequel is decent too, but this one is my favorite of the franchise. Dungeon Siege 1, as mentioned earlier, is really great. I'll add that it has really big maps, an expansion pack called Legends of Arana, and there was one location in the game where there were robots with flamethrowers and electricity guns, which I think was meant as an Easter egg, but the world is so wild already that it didn't break immersion. State of Decay 2, Juggernaut Edition is another fun zombie game, much more focused on salvaging materials than Dead Island, and it still has a storyline. Other than the zombie attacks on your base, it is usually pretty easy to run around the map avoiding them or driving over them. Solidly fun gameplay and interesting narrative the first time through. It has several different maps to play through, but they don't appear to add anything to the story. Age of Empires 3 is another base building and army building game similar to Warcraft 3 and Dawn of War. Your hero unit can explore the map and collect treasures while you do the regular technology research, resource gathering, and construction at your base. There are also some funny joke cheat codes so a monster truck can run over a musket or sword-wielding army. The campaign story follows several key figures that all seem to be related, and the ending has a surprise cameo that I won't spoil here. 7 Days to Die is another great zombie game. This one was in early access for so long I had almost given up on ever seeing a full release, and then it happened. Definitely not as polished graphics as some of the other games, but destructible terrain and the ability to craft a helicopter make this one stand out to me. Subnautica is another casual exploration game similar to Planet Crafter, but it does have some monsters that will try to eat you, which makes it worse in my books. Very similar base building mechanics and oxygen timer, but in this game you build little submarines and mechanical suits instead of using a jetpack. Luigi's Mansion 3, as mentioned earlier, not quite as good as the first one, but makes up for it by adding co-op campaign. Some of the boss fights I can't do solo, so watch out if you don't have anyone to couch co-op with. LEGO Star Wars: The Complete Saga was pretty fun. Swapping between different characters to get past certain obstacles or access certain loot was nice, and collecting all the special bricks to build the infinite money fountain in the hub world was fun. In case future games reuse titles, this game covers Star Wars movies Episode 1 through 6. Pokémon X is the first game in the series where you actually could catch 'em all. It introduced horde battles where you can fight against multiple opponents, 2 vs 2 battles against other trainers, and the in-game Global Trade Center, which allowed you to give away any random Pokémon you wanted and get another one someone else was giving away, or you could use it to trade with another player manually. The manual trades were interesting. Some people would name a bunch of the same Pokémon with words to try to communicate. Other players would have a yes and no Pokémon that they would swap back and forth with until you showed something they wanted. I'm not sure if it is still online, but if it is, this is the best Pokémon game I can recommend. Even if the online trading isn't available anymore, the horde battles put this game above most of the other entries in the series. Super Mario Odyssey is a great platformer and collectathon, but some of the platforming challenges and boss fights are beyond my skill level, so I'll never see all the dark side of the moon it has to offer. Super Mario Sunshine is another great 3D platformer, and the jetpack can help you out in most of the game if you're like me and have difficulty nailing precise jumps. There are some levels throughout the game where they take away your jetpack, and those are tricky. Also, the way the hub world connects to the other locations is through levels. Maybe it's just me, but there were some locations where earlier levels were more difficult than later levels. I had to copy someone else's save file to be able to see the final boss fight, which was actually easier than the platforming challenge to get to it. Even decades later, there are still some levels I can't beat. StarCraft Brood War is another base-building army building game. I'm avoiding using the term RTS because it seems to be used too broadly and makes these base-building army building games get buried under hundreds of games that don't do that. Anyway, this game has a great story and great cinematics just like Warcraft 3, but set in a futuristic space war. The story of Sarah Kerrigan and James Raynor is compelling if you pretend StarCraft 2 doesn't exist. Ring Fit is an exercise game similar to Wii Fit, but with a story mode that takes you on a jogging journey and using various exercises to fight opponents. You can level up to deal more damage, and repeat levels to get more crafting materials. You can also adjust the difficulty settings, although I'm not sure if it is just a placebo or actually does anything to the gameplay. Having the map and levels there really helps motivate me, even if there is still a hurdle to get started each time I play. Let me know in the comments or with a response video what your favorite games are and why. Like and subscribe.